and final episode. But not to worry, if you have missed any of the previous sessions, just make sure to follow us and we can share the recordings afterwards. Today's topic will be around how you can boost your composable journey by offering a lightning fast front-end solution. We will speak for approximately 45 minutes and then open up for questions. So if you have any questions, please use the chat and we will pick up the questions at the very end. My name is Robin Slotz. I work as a senior advisor here at Columbus, and I am delighted to share that we have many interesting companies in the audience today, people working as e-commerce managers, e-commerce directors, CDOs, CTOs, and so on. A really warm welcome to you all. And we have invited a special guest speaker for today. Please introduce yourself, Ion.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Johan. I am a solutions engineer for Vue Storefront. I come from a long background of software development and e-commerce experience. And I'm here to present the advantages and the challenges of moving from an older
A traditional stack, you can say, towards composable.
Right. I'm trying to find a polite word for it. But from a monolithical stack to a composable architecture.
That's true. That's true. And Johan will do most of the talking today. But before we dig into today's topic, I would like to inform you about N3XT, which is our composable commerce accelerator. This accelerator consists of pre-built architecture. It consists of user interfaces, services, components, and integrations. So you can be up and running and modify customer journeys, launch promotions, and add channels in no time at all. So all SaaS components in this accelerator has been carefully selected and is based on MACH architecture, meaning that they are microservices based using an API first approach. They are natively running in the cloud and offer headless services, meaning that you are ready for change. And our accelerator allows you to fulfill your business objectives and tailor rich and differentiated customer experiences and add business components as your needs increase over time. Our N3XT accelerator is based on our gained industry knowledge from over 15 years in business and the 300 plus e-commerce projects that we have done. So by using our accelerator, we help businesses transform and transition into the world of composable commerce, allowing companies to fully benefit the best of breed technology by these leading partners. And we have put to market an open and flexible package that allows for platform modularity by using our 3x combination. Experience, meaning that we embrace a customer-first mindset in our front end, powered by UX best practices, atomic design, and design systems to ensure a rich, powerful, and fast front-end experience. And that's what Johan will be talking about in a second. Explore, which means that we allow for innovation and experimentation to happen at a much, much higher pace by providing tools to deploy individual business components to make proof of concepts and more. And extend, which means you can compose your solution based on your business needs and extend or add business logic if need be, meaning that you will have the flexibility and scale the solution, and that will help to reduce your total cost of ownership over the time. And by that introduction, I will leave the word to you, Johan. Please take it away.
Sure, very happy to do so. What we're going to talk about, of course, is what are the challenges in the modern e-commerce world? How do we best address them with a front-end first approach? What problems are we really solving under the hood? And how that changes the experience for enterprise managers, for marketers, and for software developers alike. And perhaps if we move to, already to the first slide, thank you, Robin. We notice in the market there's a need to orchestrate and to unify customer experience across channels. We want our users, as marketers and as e-commerce enterprise. We want our users to have seamless journeys, meaningful journeys, and we want to make those as relevant as possible, excuse me, to every user in particular and to them as a whole. And for that, we realized that the integration point for all these experience is in the front end. If we were to move to the next slide, please, Robin. We've argued, we've itemized the points of why really starting with the front end really makes sense. Not only because this is where web performance happens, not only because this is where we have the opportunity to make our apps fast, but it's because the customer experience really starts at the tip of their finger, in the palm of their hand. They want clearly to have shops that perform. They want shops that present the information and the products in a way that's meaningful to them, and this allows us then as shop owners and shop drivers to see an improvement in return on investment, and to see how we can leverage existing investments into a better way. This is where modernizing our stacks comes in, and this is where we can ensure that by leveraging existing investments, we find a way to make them future-proof and scalable. And we're going to talk about the details of each of one of these. How do we really achieve future-proofness, and how do we achieve scalability? Thank you, Robin. So the outcome of addressing the challenges and to provide the advantages, and the effort to provide the advantages that we discussed or that we presented, is to deliver front end as a service for what is now composable commerce. We will show you how we bring the stories together, how we bring the products together, how we fit into the larger system that Robin has referenced at the beginning. So you notice that we have multiple large components in our composable and headless front ends experiences, and we make the experience happen in the front end. If we were to move to the next step, what would be then a problem? What would be then the challenges, the main challenges, and why haven't we done this before? If it's such a great idea to move everything to front end, why hasn't this happened already? And we've identified together with our partners and our customers. By the way, our software is installed in more than 2,000 shops in the world, and we're working with enterprises, both large and small, to help them move to a composable and headless world. So based on our experience, we've identified a number of challenges, and complexity is the one that always gets brought up. So our prospects and our partners are telling us that the enterprises that we're talking to find resistance into their IT infrastructure and into their IT teams, mostly because the moving a monolith and breaking it apart and making it composable, so making it addressable in smaller parts, it's something that is not trivial. And this is where our experience helps us to overcome that challenge. In terms of writing the code that drives this front end, this composable front end, is also something that has to be learned, has to be perfected, and it's not necessarily something that's immediately comfortable for developers or for product managers that have worked with legacy systems. And this generates a um, large gap um, in in between the actual decision to move to composable, to move to headless, until value is available for the market. And all these combined have presented challenges for our partners, our discussion partners at enterprises decision-making levels, where they consider that this move is complicated, and the long-term benefits might be there, but it's not necessarily easy to put it into a business plan. So this is where our solution comes in. We've made this understandable. We've made this manageable, and we've made this approachable. And of course, this is an overwhelming slide for most audiences. Even technical persons will take some time to work through these items. I'm not going to insist too much. I will talk about the large blocks and what do they mean. Most of the time, front-end development or any web presence development of a store, especially, starts with a user experience design. There will be a team or an agency designing what our future product needs to look like, or what our current web shop needs to improve upon. And they will generate some files, which will then be put in a UA library. And you can see this represented to the left side of the screen. Basically, the input into the front-end development is UI components, UI libraries. And we've made that super easy by creating our own libraries that can be used as a starting point. Once this input has happened, once our front-end teams or our partners' front-end teams receive the components that the look of the component, then they would need to build them. And that's the front-end part development. That also takes its time. And once that's built, it needs to fulfill not just the functional requirements that are typically there. So it has to have a product listing page, product detail page, of course, shopping carts and all that. It has to work fast. And it also has to fulfill most of the time accessibility requirements, which are either legal mandates or are there for supporting all our customers. Other requirements come from maintainability and scalability. All that adds to the complexity of building the front-end part of the code. And of course, once the front-end part is designed and it's developed, it has to be filled with data, because data, of course, lives in backend systems or in data lakes or in product information systems or content management systems. And in order to fill that data into the front ends, one needs to build the connectors and to orchestrate it. And perhaps we're reaching the end of the development. In the second to last column, we see that then we need to host whatever we have built, and we need to make it available to end users. And once we've done that, we will realize that we will need to be iterating over this over and over again. These being the steps, I know Robin, when the first time he saw this slide, Robin thought, okay, we need to simplify this. We don't want to overwhelm people. And of course, this is already a simplified version of everything that goes into building composable front ends. And that's okay. We are working with complex issues, and we break them into smaller parts, and we solve each in turn. And perhaps let's move on from this overwhelming slide. And this is perhaps when you would talk about where you guys would be able to help our prospects with the visual components, right?
Yeah, exactly. So this is exactly the perspective that an SI or an agency will have when working with a platform like Vue Storefront. So if you remember that left side of the previous screen where it said UI library, UX, and design systems, that's where a developer team, a design team, or an agency as Columbus would help. So when doing enterprise projects that spans across multiple markets, and that can consist of many different brands, we find as many components that we build are very similar across markets, it could make sense to set up this central design system. And a design system is a collection of reusable components guided by clear standards that can be assembled together to build a number of applications. It can be for web, mobile, customer portals, whatnot. And both design and development work can be created and replicated quickly and at scale, and it creates this visual consistency across products, channels, and markets. So it's really powerful tool. And by then applying themes, you can still achieve this unique branding for each component to fit that local market. And also what we find is valuable working with Vue Storefronts is the developer toolbox, like Johan was just mentioning, since it supports our set of industry-leading tools like Figma, Storybook, Tailwind, Next, Nuxt, and so on. And it all works natively, and you could easily scale that work. You can bring in additional designers, additional front-enders to the team and collaborate around this design system. So when doing a project like this and using Vue Storefront, we can go much faster into the design and the build process, since all of the infrastructure and the development tools are already out of the box, like Johan just was mentioning. So I think taking that away into the solution, maybe you can elaborate, Johan, on the different parts of Vue Storefront, please.
Sure, sure. So as we're now discussing the solution to the pretty complex set of problems that we've described before, the solution, of course, is also delivered in chunks or in components. And the very first part is, as Robin mentioned, the UI and translating the UI and the UX, or the user interface and user experience, into components. And in order to accelerate that, what we've designed is something called Storefront UI. Of course, it is our own set of deliverables, that of visual deliverables that you see some representations to the left of your screen. There will be all the shopping cart little bits and pieces, add to cart. You will have buttons for increasing quantity. You will have your developers will have no need to create their color pickers or their size pickers if we're talking about a fashion store. There will be menu systems that are already in place. There will be headers and footers. These are all components that are part of our accelerator approach, and they are delivered ready to use for your developers. What this allows them is to take the designs that come from Columbus, for example, and have them ready to go on the first sprint, meaning they will accelerate their work by weeks, if not even months, by using something that's already out there and that's well integrated with a user interface design system. The lower left box is the chunk of solution that delivers that data orchestration that you might remember. We discussed that we have product data and product information management systems. We have content like marketing content, like landing pages, promotional types, we have that living in content management systems. There are then payment services providers and specialty search providers that all need to be orchestrated. And for that, we have created an API orchestration service layer, which lives in our general architecture stack and does exactly that. And once we solved those big parts of the problem, we're ready to optimize our output. What that means in I would say human terms is that we make sure that the websites that your developers or your partners are creating with our solutions are going to be ready for the requirements of search engines. Search engines, as we all know, look at all the websites out there and categorize them and rank them. In order to rank high, a website has to fulfill certain technical and certain functional and visual requirements. Our optimization makes sure that out of the box, the storefronts that are built by using our composable approach already deliver and score high on that optimization. Part of that optimization, but also to complete it, is delivering all that to the outside world. And this is where our cloud native approach really shines. We're giving our partners and our customers ready-made cloud native deployment solutions that allow storefronts to be live, as I said before, in weeks, and to be accessible from anywhere in the world and at any scale. We leverage, of course, underlying cloud infrastructure from large providers that are ready and able to do that at a global scale. Not only is the solution available, but it will be very easy to scale because of these underlying services that we are able to leverage. There will always be capacity ready for when growth happens. And growth is our holy grail. We want our customers to grow. We want to grow with our customers, but we also have to make sure that we are ready for it. So there will be, of course, planned spikes like Black Friday events, but there are also we notice that their success happens on TikTok or on Instagram, where an event that happens in the social space triggers huge traffic spikes to our customers, and that's a good thing. The websites must withstand that and must be happy to receive that traffic, and that is part of our growth readiness, and it's also part of the cloud native approach that we deliver. And once all that has happened, we also want to make sure that, for example, if we talk about a spike in traffic and that has generated a large number of sales, and which is great. What happens afterwards? Many people don't have this at the top of their mind, but afterwards, your infrastructure really needs to scale down, needs to quiet down a little bit, because scaling fast and high has a cost. And that is very well justified when there are high sales numbers. But once that they tail off a little bit, how do you make sure that your infrastructure doesn't stay over provisioned? How do you make sure that you are keeping costs to what is reasonable for the level of sales? That is where our monitoring and our managed service comes in. We have monitoring in place. We have diagnostics in place, and we have performance tuning in place to answer those questions, and to make sure that not only do we provision correctly, but we also deprovision when the time comes. And by doing all this and delivering it as a service, we're removing the need for many enterprises of having to do this themselves and having to shop around for the best-in-class solution for each of one of these problem spaces. Having iterated over many web stores and storefronts, we already have identified which are the best case scenarios, which are the best practices to match those scenarios, and when we deliver all that as a service. I think we're about halfway through, if not more. So we wanna. So perhaps it's a good time to summarize what we've discussed, right? So we're really here to allow companies and to help them go headless and composable faster. Headless and composable because this is how front-end experience and user experience is best achieved, and with the lowest possible cost and in the fastest time possible to market, fastest time to market possible. And for that, we bring the data through an API orchestration layer. We deliver a very fast user experience, and we do all that without having the need to change existing infrastructure. The biggest sunk cost, of course, that enterprises have is in heavy lifting e-commerce solutions, backends, and ERPs. You are welcome to keep all that. We actually encourage you to keep all that and change out the part that's most relevant to your users and decouple the two. This means that you will also have not just the liberty to keep what you have, but also to change it in the future when the enterprise changes or when the larger scale needs change. I think, Robin, this is a good time to move to the next topic.
Yeah, and I think this is a great summary, and I think it's a great piece that you just described there, Johan. I think having front end managed as a service is really a game changer within the composable commerce space. And one takeaway from listening to you is that front end can be quite complex. There are many moving parts and things to consider besides designing and building functional components, which is in essence what maybe enterprises and companies are thinking about when thinking about front end. It's about designing and building, but remember that busy slide, it's a lot more complex than that. So before moving into the next topic, I think maybe it's interesting for the audience if you can share what benefits Vue Storefront has for maybe the three personas. So for enterprise decision makers, for marketers, and for developers, maybe.
Right. So we keep talking about experience and user experience, but we realize that we're also addressing, as you say, different personas in our customer space, and we notice that, yeah, of course, our enterprise decision makers are one group whose experience we can improve. And as we've mentioned before, time to market, improving time to market is something that is perceived as high value. And because we deliver these accelerators and the possibility for having a working storefront on the first sprint of a new product development, that allows a great reduction of the time to market of a migration from a legacy system to a new one. By delivering all of the maintenance and all of the monitoring and all of the performance optimization, we really lower the total cost of ownership as well, because most of those things would have to be done in-house or would have to be outsourced to certain teams or agencies. But if they're already there, and with our cloud pricing, there's in almost every case a much lower total cost of ownership. And not only that, it is also fast, scalable, and secure, and it's backed up by SLAs. And this is part of course, of the enterprise offerings. There will never be a service without a accompanying SLA. That's our typical SLA on the screen, 99.9. But higher SLAs are also available for specific requirements and for specific costs, of course. And this is, in a nutshell, I would say the biggest improvement that we bring to enterprise buyers. Of course, there is other teams which and other users that find their experience to be much improved by using our product. And of course, marketers, it's a generic term, but that is our content creators. Those are our campaign managers. Those are our social media managers. These are all people that really help drive sales, and their experience has been in the past hampered by either difficulties of implementing new landing pages. We've been told that from many legacy systems, creating a new landing page for a campaign that starts in November would have typically started in August. And they would, the marketers would create sort of like a PDF that would be handed over to product managers, and they would go over solutioning with development teams, and they would make sure that they have it ready in place and tested by go live time in November. Well, while that works, it is not very flexible, as input already created has to be delivered, and that takes its time. It's not fast at all. It really takes a long time and doesn't really allow for changes along the way. And this is where basing our approach on content management systems and composable front ends allow marketers to have tooling in place to create their own landing pages. They will no longer need to address product managers that will drive development teams. They will work with the tooling that software developers give them based on our solutions, of course, to create their own landing pages. So a very typical example that we have in our experience set is influencer marketing, where fashion stores, for example, work with influencers to create landing pages for a marketing campaign that's driven on social media. And the influencer will create a set of a bundle of products that they like a look or a kit, and they would link to that from their presence. And in order to maximize the revenue that one can extract after such a campaign, there will of course be the wording around and the reasoning behind the choice of products, but there will also need to be a product stream on the same landing page. And this is where working with the best-in-class tooling for content management and for front-end development, your marketers are easily able to create that landing page to fit the campaign by using drag-and-drop systems, and to choose the products that are available on your stores from the product information management system directly by themselves, without having to go through software developers, without having to go through a difficult development process, and they can do that right away. And this is also part of our accelerator in the sense that just as developers have something to work with on the first sprint, so do marketers. Meaning they will not be a wait of 6 months or 3 months or whatever that will be between when we start working on a new website presence or a new look and the time when marketers will start to create their campaigns. So the product will meet the content at the finish line very early. And this is where marketers tell us using our products really has changed the way they manage their campaign. They made it more flexible, and much more creative. Of course, what is multi-brand and multi-language presence without support? And because we're able to bring in the best-in-class CMSs and the best-in-class branding tools, those features are built in, and they allow the creation of multi-branded storefronts. Basically, you will have one storefront for each brand, but customizing and managing and driving its content is seamless through these tools. All of this ends up into, of course, much better search engine placement, because localized content drives search engine placement, of course. And by improving the user experience, we also have an opportunity to improve the page load times. Having the ability to experiment early with the content that we're going to put out there allows developers and performance optimizers to ensure that once the landing page hits the market, it is ready to do so. So we've addressed the experience, right, from the enterprise point of view, marketer point of view, just before this. And we noticed that another group that really is happy to be using our products, and we're very happy to say that as well, are our software developers. As much as we like to empower business users to use storefronts, management systems on their own, there still is, and there will for a very long time, I'm sure, be a need for software to be developed or adapted or customized by development teams. And they like having, for me, it's very easy to relate to that, of course, as being a software developer myself. They really like to have the ability to work with tools which are modern, which take advantage of the latest or very recent advances in software development, because it allows them to be more productive. It also allows them to develop themselves to a point where they say, I'm working with the most modern tools. This is great for my, not just for my mental well-being, but also for my career going forward. And giving them the ability to choose between the best-in-class front-end development kits out there right now is key to developer retainment and also to hiring processes. There was always the issue with monolithical systems or with legacy systems that slowly they go out of favor with software developers for obvious reasons. They are simply old and they cannot keep up with functionality, or because the choices in technology don't match current best practices and best ideas. And this is the problem that we're able to solve very flexibly by making sure that we have an agnostic approach to frameworks. Every framework that will generate traction with developers in the future will be very easy to adopt using the composable approach. And this is what we have done already. And this also allows us to deliver on the points that I mentioned before. Of course, scalability and repetitive work elimination, these are great advantages for software developers. And having something working out of the box is a great accelerator and a great satisfaction bringer to software developer. It's much more fun to modify an existing and well optimized and well designed system than having to build one from scratch, or having to work against a system. There's quite often the feeling among some software developers that they have to work against decisions that have been made before, in terms of platform of choice or software of choice.
Right.
And by using the most modern ones, you eliminate most of that conversation point. I guess, Robin, these would be our three groups that we've identified as an answer to your question. And perhaps this would be a good time for questions.
I think so. I mean, I really hope you all found the session so far interesting. Obviously there is so much more to talk about. I know Johan, you could really dig into this and speak about this all day. But I suggest we open up for questions. I see we have a few questions. So if I direct this to you, Johan, what typical clients do you have at Vue Storefront? If we start with that, or industries or verticals.
Right. There is a very large palette, I would say, a very wide palette, and it also works across our product range. Perhaps the easiest integrations that we've seen by users that leverage our storefront UI components, and they are very easy to integrate into existing web stores. And we see that in thousands and thousands of use cases across the web. And these are software solutions that cater to every vertical, almost every vertical that we've seen. So we have of course fashion. That's a big driver for us. We see industrials. We see do-it-yourself stores, or other type of home improvement. What we also have started seeing more and more is enterprises that come from industrial spaces or come from large conglomerate type of holding structures that bring the need to change to composable from large monolithical architecture. They have purchased over time very complex systems from people like SAP, of course, or Salesforce, and they are finding the need to accelerate the way they develop, and to make sure that they take advantage of everything that composable brings. And this is where, for the last year or so, we've seen the most interest, I would say. And it really is across industries. So paper manufacturers.
Yeah.
You would not necessarily think of a paper manufacturer being super interested in e-commerce and modernizing e-commerce. But what they see is that working mostly business to business, I think they have no business to consumer sales at all. Delivering on a business to business purchase experience with curated shopping and special inventory for special channels. These are things which are best driven by a very robust e-commerce engine. But in terms of delivering that experience to the sales channels, flexibility in the front end is key. And this is where tacking our layer on top of their existing systems delivers that flexibility and that value.
Mm.
Yeah, and of course, to to answer with things that are absolutely in the regular in everybody's focus. We have traction with e-commerce platforms themselves, or with large commerce platforms like Spar Austria. This is, for example, that's a company that sells consumer goods to millions and millions of people, and they are one of our clients, and they are building on top of SAP.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. And we have another one. So what? How do you know if you need when it's time to upgrade to a modern framework? I can maybe start from an SI perspective, because either from existing customers or potential customers that we engage with, when we end up into discussions around going composable, we typically address the need of decouple the front end first. And when do you know if it's time? Well, you can look at it from multiple perspectives. One perspective could obviously be technical depth. So over time, you have built up this complexity that you kind of end up having trouble refactoring and maintaining the code to keep a performant and stable solution. So obviously by then you need to start to decouple the business logic, separated it from the front end layer to actually add on the user experience. Secondly, you can look at it from a best practice or customer journey standpoint. You can have an agency as Columbus or someone else do a UX audit to kind of audit and monitor the different parts of the website, the product listing page, the start page, and checkout, and so on, to see whether you're accessible compliant, compliant to accessibility regulations, if you are on par with the latest UX guidelines and principles. And by that, you know if it's worth revamping and actually building a new experience. Have you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, this is. I think it's very much an answer that writes itself. It is. It is when the current state becomes untenable. This is a very abstract way of telling it, but it really goes back to what we've described from a marketer experience, or from a developer experience, or from a business manager experience. When they notice, when our users notice that it becomes very difficult to do their job, or that they are doing it much slower than their competition, that's when they realize there's a need to accelerate. And by using legacy tooling, acceleration comes at a very, very high cost. And this is where we notice we're getting approached either by customers directly, or for agencies or consultants working for them, asking us, how can you really help? Because we've read all this about composables. This is not necessarily a very new concept anymore. There's the Mac Alliance that we're part of, that's been doing a lot of great marketing content and putting it out there and bringing it to the attention of the right people. But they're interested in how can you really help, and this is where we kind of know that in most cases, it's a good time to be thinking about composable solutions and front end first, when you have problems like your marketing people being too slow with their content, when your website no longer ranks well in Google, or when your mobile apps are either too slow or too difficult to maintain or too expensive to upgrade. There's many. I wouldn't say necessarily many, but there is a significant number of prospects and clients that told us, I also want to achieve mobile app performance with significant cost reductions. I have two teams, one that's doing native iOS, one that's doing Android. Both of them deliver good user experience and good performance, and where our ROI numbers are good there, but they're not great because I have this double cost of development.
Yep. Yep.
How at all can you help? And of course, our agnostic approach helps there as well. So it's a combination of these things that makes our prospects realize, yes, a good time would have been a few years ago,
Yep. Yeah.
but a good time is now as
Yeah.
well.
True that. So wrapping up, last question. I know we're running a bit short on time, but so we get this question. Vue Storefront sounds great, but what are the benefits of a custom-made solution compared to Vue Storefront? If you could elaborate quickly on that, please.
Well, you would build something custom when you need to do something that's not repeatable. This is, of course, very abstract, but if you have a situation where you cannot leverage the experience of other people, of other people's experiences before. If you need to build a store that doesn't have a menu system, if you need to build a store that doesn't have a product listing page, or if you need to build a store that doesn't have a shopping cart, then you would choose a custom solution. You would simply write yourself, or you would not necessarily use other people's experience. Whenever you find yourself building a product that does most of what other stores do, but just needs to be changed here and there. That's when going for the best in class is a good idea.
Yeah.
And when I say best in class, I don't necessarily mean our solutions, but I mean the combination of solutions that we're able to provide with our partners. So by combining our work with providers or with the most appropriate e-commerce engine, we are able to deliver something that's better, faster, and cheaper than any custom solution.
Great. I think that would have to be the ending words. Thank you very much to the audience and the listeners of today. Thank you very much, Johan, for your contribution. I think it was super interesting and valuable. Please reach out to us and make us sure to follow us to have more updates and news both from Columbus and Vue Storefront. We say goodbye now and have a good day, everyone.
Thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.